This is Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
Welcome back to Jets at Noon. I'm Tyson Merwicki along with Jim Toth. Coming to you live from the Boston Pizza studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. And this hour is also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash on 690 St. Anne's Road and at washmethod.com. We'll be giving away a VIP text on the text line 204-780-6868. And do want to address this one text from Tim saying, can't find yesterday's show on YouTube. Well, that's because we were a little short-staffed yesterday. So a sacrifice had to be made, unfortunately. But today's episode will be back up, and then from then on out, besides Thursday, because we will be live at the Manitoba Open, and we will not have filming capabilities. And special thanks to Ross Levitan for stepping in yesterday on short notice. For me, it was a tough weekend, Jim. A little bit of a tough weekend. But we're here now, and now we can talk some hockey. So how about that on this Tuesday afternoon?
Well, welcome back, and it's this revolving chair. Like, I almost called you Kelly today, but Kelly's on holidays.
We do look alike.
You look like a young Kelly Moore. You got that going for you.
Oh, thank you.
Did you ever see a younger picture of Kelly Moore?
No, I haven't.
Eddie Rabbit. Looks like young
Eddie Rabbit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Loves a rainy night.
That's something. I'm going to have to check that out. But if anyone has pictures,
today,
feel free to send them in.
That's your compliment of the day.
You can send in a picture of Kelly Moore that looks like Eddie Rabbit. You will probably win the VIP text.
There you go.
So you
Just text a picture of young Kelly Moore, and you will get a VIP car wash, which I went on Sunday night. And I'm not lying about the Niagara Falls. There's purple, blue, green, the whole gamut, like a rainbow when you go through there. It's Manitoba's Niagara Falls.
It's all the main colors.
And
that's all you need.
You go get a little BP.
It's perfect. That's a perfect way to wind down the week.
That's your way to wind down your week. Now, you did have a rough weekend.
Yes.
Because I texted you on, this is on the podcast, so we can go there. But yeah, too bad, because Ross had really good stuff. We revisited some of the main topics, like what's going on with Connor Hellebuyck. And a lot of people might say, like, we're talking about the same stuff over and over, but I really like his perspective. And with the Locked On Senators podcast he does, and so in tune with the Ottawa Senators, I love getting anybody's outside of the market, and he's inside the market, by the way. But it's perspective on some of the big topics.
We got a good crew here over at CJOB.
Great team.
But Jim,
it's a young man's game, though.
It
right?
is.
Like,
clock's ticking.
I got to get Kelly Moore to hang on because it makes me feel young.
But Jim, we do have some new content coming our way today.
Fresh.
And it comes from The Athletic. Corey Pronman does his under 23 rankings. So it's not just prospects, it's also including players who are under the age of 23. And Jets didn't do too well in this one, Jim. They are ranked at 28th in the NHL. The only teams below them are the Golden Knights, the Stars, the Oilers, and the Avalanche. And when we look at the bottom six of that list, that also includes the Florida Panthers along with the five that I just mentioned. But all those teams have made the conference finals in the past 3 years.
Right.
Besides the Jets.
Yes.
They do have a President's Trophy in that time. But, Jim, you look at the Avalanche, they have two of the top five players in the league. Same with Edmonton. The Stars have guys like Thomas Harley and Wyatt Johnston who are in their primes and still building. So they have those pieces at least. And then Vegas and Florida are both pretty well set still when it comes to their rosters. And when we look at the Jets, Corey Pronman only ranked 5 prospects. When you look at some of the other lists, he went as deep as 15. And so that kind of shows at least how he views them. I don't know if it's totally fair, but he had the top 5 players under 23 for the Jets. Vigo Bjork at number 1, no surprises there. Sacha Boumedienne at number 2. Elias Salomonson at number 3, which I think maybe you flip those two D-men because at least Salomonson has some playing time in the NHL and has shown that he can compete in the NHL. Then Braden Yeager at 4 and Kevin He at 5. A little bit of a surprise there, but I'm a huge Kevin He fan. But Jim, you know, wherever you rank the prospects, wherever you rank the under 23 players for the Jets, this has got to be a concerning sign for this team moving forward, don't you think?
Yeah, so there's two ways I look at this. And I know people look at this and go, well, the Jets cupboards are bare and they haven't done a good job and they're aging out their core and stuff. If you have a Stanley Cup contending team and you're in the top 10, you're doing something extremely well. I just don't like the Canadians are third, and the Canadians have a really good NHL caliber team, and then they have a ton of prospects too. That's well done, but it's tough to do. It's tough to have both, right? Like usually if you're spending prospects And I know a lot of people are going to bash the organization for this. I do not. They trade picks to try and win in the playoffs. Now, that hasn't happened, so fair enough. But to me, it's two different conversations, right? Do you want the cupboards to be loaded? And if they are, it means you haven't been very good for a while. And if they're not, it means that you've been spending some assets to kind of stay competitive. I look at this top 10 here, and I think the most fascinating part of where the Jets are at 28th, which isn't good, and it's not high in the rankings at all. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. What I'm trying to say is look at the teams around them. The Lightning, the Senators, the Panthers, then the Jets, the Golden Knights, the Stars, the Oilers, the Avalanche. All of these, Hurricanes are 23rd. They just won the Stanley Cup. They're in the bottom 10. Well, bottom 11. Bottom 9, sorry.
Would you take the Jets over any of those teams moving forward, though?
No, but
that's where my concern is, though, at least. It's just that those other teams that you've listed, besides the Senators for the most part, they have a little bit more success, and the Senators' core is a little bit younger.
What would you prefer, them keeping those picks, not getting the Sean Monahans, the Tyler Toffoli's?
Well, I don't.
And making those high-end picks and then having more in the cupboard right now? Or would you prefer the last 3 or 4 years they actually tried to win a Stanley Cup?
I don't hate the mentality of trying to win a Stanley Cup. I totally respect that and understand that, especially during the President's Trophy season. It's just now, as we look at the outlook of this team moving forward, I don't even know if they make the playoffs this year. And what does that mean for the future of this club going forward? I think that's the big question here, is that is their hand going to be forced a little bit sooner rather than later? And I think that these kind of indicate that, Mark Scheifele's getting older, Connor Hellebuyck's getting older, Josh Morrissey's getting older. They need some guys to come in and help them if they want to continue to be a winning hockey team. And realistically right now, if they don't make too many changes, they won't be a winning hockey team for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think every time they pulled off a trade, they've won it.
Yes, I totally.
And so if they start trading off assets, they're probably going to not maybe say they trade 4 assets off. They're probably going to win 3 of those and be retooled and ready to go.
I just don't think it happens that quickly.
Would you rather have the Avalanche's future at 32nd?
I would.
You would rather have the Avalanche's future than the Jets?
Well, the Avalanche have a way better chance of winning the Cup in the next 3 years.
Yes, I would agree. I would say they have a better chance. I wouldn't say way better, but
I just
unless you know what the Jets are going to do this year, unless you know that, that's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
I will say this: it's the unknown. That's the negative part of the Jets. Is it's not known, but it's very unknown. But you look at Colorado, you have a better indication of what they're going to do this year,
for sure.
But however, this is my point. Colorado is older than the Jets.
Right, but they have a cup to show for it.
Yes, several years ago, and then they did well in the regular season. They won the President's Trophy. My pick to win the Stanley Cup, had a great start to the playoffs, and then laid an absolute egg, an egg that the Jets have laid in the playoffs. Don't forget that series with Vegas. Colorado did what the Jets do in the playoffs in the first round.
But in the Avalanche,
they laid
in the Western
down and
Conference
got
Final,
swept, right? They got swept, didn't they?
Yes, but the Avalanche were able to do that in the Western Conference Final against the team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals.
So fair enough.
There's more success.
Would you rather the Jets get swept in the first round or the third round? My point is, at some point in the playoffs, when it mattered most, they looked terrible with this stacked lineup that most people are going to predict to win the Stanley Cup next year.
Yeah.
And their cupboards are more empty than the Jets.
For sure. But I think that if you look at the ages of the cores, very similar. The Avalanches are much.
They have the same Jets issues in my mind,
but with a much better core.
And they had to trade off a lot of their depth because of cap reasons.
Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, despite how good Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey are, those two guys are light years ahead of both those guys. It's no shot at them.
But I've always said that, right? Like the Jets don't have Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. They don't have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They don't. But they have a better goalie than both those teams.
They do.
They have Josh Morrissey, who's not Cale Makar, but he was on the same Olympic team as Cale Makar, and they missed him when he was out of the lineup. I've always said this. The reason they've had success the previous 2 years is their depth. And their depth is why they didn't have good success last season. But when we're looking at the future of it, I don't know why more people aren't talking about Colorado. Nathan McKinnon's age 30. Nelson Brock is 34. Gabriel Landeskog is 33. Nazem Kadri is 35. Those are your centers, all in your mid-30s or earlier 30s. What's their future? Are they talking about diminishing assets? We better move.
But it's the plan.
Guys.
It's the plan for the Avalanche, where I look at that and I go, yeah, they might be in trouble in a couple of years, but they got a really good chance these next couple of years to win a Stanley Cup with this core. They just went to the Western Final. If I look at the Jets and I compare, I go, I don't even know if this team makes the playoffs next year. There's a very, very real chance that they don't.
That's fair. I'm not diminishing that. I just think that these rankings are, if you're in the bottom 10, it's probably because you got a pretty good NHL roster. And if you're in the top 10, it's probably you don't. Montreal's the exception. There's exceptions to everything, right? Winnipeg might be the exception in the bottom 10.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Your point might be that, like, of the Floridas, Carolinas, Stars, Golden Knights, and then you have to look at how business is done, right? The one thing Colorado has going at 32 and Vegas has behind the Jets is they can acquire players. Players will want to go there if they need to fix some issues. And Winnipeg doesn't have that. But I still stand pat. The one thing you can't change in Winnipeg, like, you can hold on to your draft picks and you have to draft and you have to hit more than other teams do and all that. That is all true. But the one thing I've always found frustrating with Jets fans is you can't build forever. It's been 15 years and you can't keep building, holding draft picks, prospects. You at some point in 15 years, you have to go for it.
Totally. I totally agree.
With this, even we got to go 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. That was the time to go for it.
I totally agree. But it comes down to that vision conversation that we had last week as well. Where is this team going? Can this team be a playoff contender this year?
But what I'm saying, the cost of going for it is you're now 28th ranked in the prospects. That's the cost of going for it. So either you want to go for it, which I think at some point you have to with any good core. And when you do, 3 or 4 years later, you're going to be in the bottom 10 of prospects.
Yep. But
because you went for it.
Totally. But does that show that last season, maybe that's the indicator where, hey, we need to refigure things out. We don't have enough pieces.
I want to emphasize, I get what you're saying. Like, you're saying that potentially with this year, if they miss the playoffs, then you got to restock these cupboards to the point where you're back in the top 10 maybe after next year by trading off some of those assets. That's a fair question. I have a lot of time for that. But what I'm saying, as we sit right now in the middle of August, the 2026 prospect rankings, I'm not surprised, and I don't think it's terrible that the Jets are 28th because they built something and went for it. And they built for a lot longer than other teams did.
Yep.
And they can't acquire like the Vegases and the Colorados and stuff. So when they go for it, you're going to feel it more than other teams that are in the bottom 10. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. But it comes down to now what happens this season in particular.
What do we do now, right?
And what other moves can potentially still be made.
And that's when we circle back to the topic of the summer, in my mind, at least on Jets at Noon, is the pressure on this organization going into this season.
Right.
Is higher than ever.
Absolutely.
Because you're at that tipping point.
So if the pressure was there, wouldn't you have liked to see maybe at least some moves that were done that would kind of push this team in one direction or the other, so at least that there's a proper highway to take for this team?
I honestly think that's why they're listening on Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, but we still wait with no trade.
And 2 years ago, the phone isn't even picked up for Connor Hellebuyck.
Oh, absolutely not.
And now what he said, and combined with if they're calling and offering stuff, then that's what, the other part of Chevy's toughest job other than being in Winnipeg is doing this. Like, I'm not trading these guys because they sign long-term and I can't get guys to come here. Unless, and that's what the unless is, right? Unless you knock my socks off and show me I can fill 2 to 3 holes in one move.
Yep. But like you mentioned, pressure's on now.
And I think there's 2 holes being filled, not the 3, and that's why he's still a Winnipeg Jet. But if that third one gets filled, and I get what you're saying, like, that's the tipping point this season. But I'm not surprised they're in the bottom 10 because they went for it. And I'll argue this all day. I heard from people 3 years ago that they should have. There's a certain fraction, and I think it's the minority of the Jets core fan group that wants them to rebuild. They don't like Kyle Connor, shouldn't have signed that contract, get rid of him. They don't. You can't do that in Winnipeg. When you have guys who have signed here and are elite like that, you have to run it back as often as you can. Otherwise, as we discussed yesterday with Ross, when you make a move, you're not getting Dylan Larkin back. You're getting Gabe Vilardi back, and you hope that in 2 years he becomes what Gabe Vilardi is. That's the package coming back, and you've got to go for it. And I'll argue this to the end of the day. I'm all for building something, taking your time, drafting, developing, and doing that. But at some point, you have to go for it. And I would be more upset right now if they were in the top 10 of prospects this year and didn't go for it 3 years ago.
I agree with you. I do think that, that they went for it. But now I think it's about being proactive instead of reacting to what happens this season. But we'll take a break.
One final note on this. The tipping point this season is making the playoffs. There's a more immense amount of pressure. If they make the playoffs, imagine the pressure.
Oh, absolutely. Let us know what you think. 204-780-6868. Make sure you call the Boston Pizza hotline at 204-780-6800, where you can come in for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main-side and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. Well, remember, the greatest Winnipeg Jet, right after this commercial break.
Jets at noon on 680 CJOB.
Welcome back to Jets at Noon. And Jim, it is the 6th anniversary of Dale Hawerchuk's passing. You watched him a lot more than I did growing up. Just how much of an impact did we have? But yeah, we also talked about it at length on the podcast exclusive, where you can get your podcast, you can listen to it there. But just quickly, what did Dale Hawerchuk mean to the city and to Winnipeg fans as well?
Yeah, I highly recommend getting a podcast to get into this more. But I don't think there's an athlete out there in any sport that means more to a city than Dale Hawerchuk. I think there's some on par. Like, I think what Michael Jordan means to Chicago and of that ilk. But I don't think there's, like, he had that equal impact. Like, Dale Hawerchuk in Winnipeg had, as an athlete, had that impact. And so it's condolences to the family today and the passing. I didn't know him personally. I did a golf tournament with him once, and I interviewed him several times on the show. I knew him to say hi when I saw him in the press box and stuff. But there's people that can speak to much more of the legacy than I can. But I think he's on par. I don't think he has more than like a Jordan in Chicago, but I think he's on par with that, what he means to the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba.
Raise a glass for Dale Hawerchuk tonight. We'll be back right after the 12:30 news. Welcome back to Jets at Noon. I'm Tyson Rowicki along with Jim Toth, coming to you live from the Boston Pizza studio. For gourmet pizza and pasta, bring the team to Boston Pizza. And this hour is also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road, and at washmethod.com. Send those texts in 204-780-6868. Jim, we got the Eddie Rabbit, Kelly Moore pictures.
We got it. Jared came through, Eddie Rabbit, Kelly Moore.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the Kelly Moore, Eddie Rabbit lookalike picture has him interviewing Gordie Howe.
Oh, this is the sweet tones of Kelly Moore. I mean, Eddie Rabbit right here.
I once saw a picture of this ilk and put out that right after this interview, Kelly went home, lit up a cigarette, poured a cup of coffee, and wrote, "I love a rainy night." None of that is true.
We cannot confirm
None of that
or
is true.
deny that.
Oh, we can deny it. But that's not true at all.
Jared's such a good guy, too. He says, I don't even need the car wash. I'm on the bus, so pass on me. But Jim, you're right. They have a pretty strong resemblance, and they absolutely do in these two pictures. So thanks for that, Jared. Really appreciate it. Some other texts I wanted to get to here, Jim. This one comes from Lloyd. Lloyd says, I think the biggest unknown for this season is what attitude or mindset of the players that made up the starting lineups all of last year. What are they working on to be better this year? Because to a man, none of them performed well enough, except maybe Scheifele and Connor. And is this organization going to wheel out the same guys no matter how they play, because they're prone to doing that? Thanks for that, Lloyd.
Vilardi played great last year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I still give it to Morrissey as well.
Morrissey played well.
Point totals are down. But
Sandberg was okay. He didn't have his best year, but
got better as the year went on.
I think everybody's waiting for Sandberg to take a step, right? So that's what... and Wayne has texted us and said, Wayne here, Toth, you never cease to amaze me by your lack of hockey acumen. The team is going nowhere. I'm sure you know the definition of insanity, and the Jets show it every year. The Jets need to be the Tampa Rays of hockey, period. Draft, develop, trade for assets, and keep repeating. No long-term contracts, period. Unfortunately, the Jets don't draft the best available prospect. They draft players who will only play here.
I don't. There's some truth into that.
My hockey acumen is lacking. They do not draft players who will only play here.
Well,
they draft really good hockey players, and then some of them, like Greg McGroarty, after saying he'll play here, one out, and other ones that are from Michigan and other places sign here long-term contract after contract.
Yep, and Jim, just to add on to that too, the prospects that they've drafted over the last little bit, I mean, they are being picked later in the draft.
Yes.
So when you look at their
they
record
went for it.
Right.
But my hockey acumen.
Hey, we'll welcome it all in.
They should hit on every draft pick, Tyson.
Especially
picking in the bottom 20, the second. They should nail every draft pick ever. That's their only feature. And then I love this too, Wayne, not to pile on you, but I respect other people's opinions, disagree with me, but this is the best one, I thought. They need to be the Rays of hockey, period. Draft, develop, trade for assets, keep repeating, no long-term contracts, period.
Well, that's a little bit hyperbolic.
No. Just sign 2 to 3 year deals. Do not give out 6-year contracts to Perfetti or Velarde. Do not get Hawerchuk and Scheifele on 7 year, just 2 years max.
I think there is a little something to that. I don't totally agree with what Wayne's saying, but I do think that there's something to the Tampa Rays mentality. Now, it's much different in baseball, and I wouldn't, if you have a guy like Connor, you got to lock him up to a contract. I heavily disagree with that mentality.
This then. You don't think Nick Ehlers, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor Hawerchuk, Josh Morrissey should have got 6-year contracts?
Oh, absolutely. That's where I disagree with his point. I think you can't just say a blanket statement and say
you two have poor hockey acumen then.
But no, I do agree that there has to be a consideration in the back of your mind if you are the general manager of this team that, hey, we can attract guys to come to this team. So if we do want to build a consistent winner, we do kind of have to have that pipeline consistently filled. And then when it comes to a year like 2018, for example, that's where you kind of push things into the middle and get a guy like Paul Stastny who really helps the lineup. And I think
But that's my point. Like, that's what they've kind of done over the years, right? Like, when they went for it, they went for it. Yeah. And it costs you draft picks.
Absolutely it does.
Yeah, you're not the team that can send out assets. You're not the team that can send a second liner out with a draft pick and try to pick up a first. And that's why they're 28th right now in my mind.
And hindsight's 2020, but you could argue that maybe they should have moved off a guy like Nick Ehlers when they knew that he wasn't going to be back. And yes, you do want that President's Trophy that year.
Sorry, I'm gonna push back on that. You didn't know he wasn't going to be back. You didn't know he was staying either. But when you're coming off a season where you finish 4th overall, you're not going to trade him away because you have I don't need to shock people here. You have no secondary scoring.
Right, but that move.
And with Nick Ehlers gone, you had 0 secondary scoring. So you're not going to go, I got to better get something for him in the idea of 2 first-round picks. But he was the rental.
If Josh, I don't like the own rental stuff. I think he's already a part of your team. Like with Josh Morrissey coming up, say if he goes into his final season with the team and he says, I'm not sure if I want to be a Winnipeg Jet long term. Are you willing to wait till the end of the season to figure that out? Because if a guy like Nick Ehlers or Josh Morrissey says, I don't know if I want to be here past this season, immediately the conversations, I think, start needing to be had on what we can do.
That's a different conversation than even Connor Hawerchuk because he has a contract with 5 years left on it. So you approach that differently than you approach Josh Morrissey going, I appreciate the offer. I prefer to go. Look, they've gone through this before. His name was Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he got traded. So don't tell me Kevin Cheveldayoff won't pull the trigger.
Well, restricted free agent, to be fair. And Nick Ehlers never asked for a trade, but that's kind of my point.
For 2 years, Pierre-Luc Dubois spoke publicly and said, I'm going to see what free agency does. And then a year later, he goes, I'm not looking to re-sign here. And they traded him. So if Josh Morrissey does the same, if he does, I'm not saying he will. I think Josh loves it here. But then Kevin Cheveldayoff will act then under those parameters.
Well, but the only one thing with Pierre-Luc Dubois was that he was an RFA. So they were still able to hang on to his rights even if he wasn't going to sign with the team. Nick Ehlers wasn't that situation. It was now the Jets wanted to compete that year, and fair, but you kind of have to deal with the ramifications of losing a player like that.
Sorry, I appreciate your opinion because you're not alone. I heard this a lot about Ehlers. We still hear it about it. How do you walk him into free agency? Because you walk him into free agency. If he doesn't want to sign for 7 years at $7 million and he wants to go to free agency, you can't force him. But the second part of that is you have a Stanley Cup contending team at the time. You're not moving him for draft picks. And you're not, let's be honest, you're not getting an Ehlers caliber player willing to waive a no move to come back. So your hands are more tied than they were with Pierre-Luc Dubois. And they're more tied than if Josh Morrissey says, next summer, I'm not sure about committing. You approach that differently. Nick Ehlers even took days after free agency to consider. And when he spoke publicly, he said it was a really tough decision and I was wavering on staying. You have to handle that differently when you're trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Hey, agree to disagree. I do agree that like where the Jets, if they have a guy like that, maybe you have to think about recouping those assets, because while Nick Ehlers said it was a tough decision and the Jets were in it at the end of the day, the Jets walk away with nothing out of it.
So you and I think differently on this then, because what I'm hearing from you is you're telling me that while you're in first place in the NHL that season and have been all season long, and you can't sign Nick, you're going to move him for 2 first-round draft picks, which would be great return for Nick Ehlers if you got 2 first-rounders for him.
I think once the season starts, you are kind of stuck with him. I will give you that. But
and that's why I wouldn't have moved him.
But I would say my reaction ahead of that would be we're not really close. We don't, like, based off this past season, we have a guy who's
but they were close at the time. We can't forget that.
Well, once the
they were 4th in the NHL overall, 2nd in the West, and then they went into his contract year, and they were in first place. They had a record-setting start to the season. You're not moving Nick Ehlers, even though he's a pending free agent. I'm sorry. That doesn't make sense to me.
Not during the season, I agree. I think that you have to have a proactive approach and say, hey, Nick Ehlers is likely not going to be back here. If he's not committing to the team now, then how can we assume that he's going to commit to this team at the end of the year? And I think those are the conversations you have to have where you go, man, it might make us a little bit worse of a team this upcoming season, but with where we are, it avoids us getting to a situation where we're at now, where the Jets are one of the worst teams when it comes to under 23 cores.
Yeah, I know they lost him, and it's a loss. I'm not trying to sugarcoat the loss of Nick Ehlers and the fact they couldn't keep him. But I don't win a President's Trophy, go to the second round against Dallas, see the point production he had in the playoffs, and go, I'm not trying to re-sign him.
Oh, absolutely. My whole thing is just we can't just react to things as they happen with the Winnipeg Jets. We have to be a little bit proactive because guys don't stay at the end of the day for the most part.
I get that, but to me, it's a catch-22. I'm with you. They have to be more proactive than other organizations. But because they're not other organizations and have the trouble attracting them, they also have to be more patient than other ones. You can't just – and what's always lost in this is they're trying to win every single year. Now, Kevin has done, in my opinion, an impressive job of trying to win every season, but also looking to the future. Acquiring guys like Velarde and Rasmus Kupari, who I know is left now, but Alex Iafallo, who you have some term with. Other teams can just trade guys, like the Dallas, Colorado, the Vegas of the year, can bring on guys at the deadline that have no term left and know that whether they don't re-sign, they probably will because they like it here or that. The Jets don't have that. So they have to look to the future a lot more than other organizations, but they also have to be way more patient than other organizations.
Yeah.
And so, look, we all see the loss of Nick Ehlers was massive. We all saw the year he had in Carolina, but the year he had in Carolina was much like the ones he had here. He had 60 points.
Yeah.
But the playoffs were dynamic. And so we're going back and forth here now, but I appreciate it. But this is why I like doing the show with you.
I like doing the show with you too.
Younger perspective to it. And I know a lot of people agree with you, but I run my team a little bit differently. That I see the season we were having, and I see what he was bringing to us, and then I go into the playoffs and go to the second round, and I do not try to re-sign him.
No, I'm with you on that. At that point, the Jets absolutely have to do everything they can to bring him back.
Morrissey's a different story. Now, I think Josh Morrissey wants to be here and wants to stay here. But I also think he's like the other veterans that he wants a chance to win. Like, there's a lot of people who texted over the summer that says if he doesn't re-sign, he's going to go to Calgary. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to win in Calgary for the next 4 years. And just because that's one of the reasons Josh Morrissey loves Winnipeg is it's a 2-hour flight.
Yeah.
He loves going back and forth. He loves the city. He loves the organization. He loves being here. But he also enjoys that it's only 2 hours away on a flight, or I just made it. It's a lovely drive. But
lots of scenery.
So I think he wants to be here. But if they have a season like they have this year, I wouldn't blame him if he's not going, I'm not ready to re-up yet.
Yeah, and that's when the interesting conversation
then you have a different conversation than when you had with Nick Ehlers, in my opinion.
Yep.
And it's a different conversation than Connor Hellebuyck because, Connor, you're signed, you're here.
Yeah, context does matter.
And I don't have the wherewithal to just move on from 5 years left on a term. Cheveldayoff doesn't. If I'm him, they don't have the luxury of going, I'll just move on and find somebody else because people love coming here.
Yeah, let us know what you think. 204-780-6868. Want to get to this text from Eric who said, should Toronto have traded Marner to be proactive? I would say yes. And if you look at a lot of Leafs fans, they're probably looking at what Mitch Marner's doing with Vegas and going, man, I wish we got more than Nick Waugh for Mitch Marner.
I put a lot of that on Toronto. I'm like, should have not treated Mitch Marner a little bit better?
Well, and they tried to trade him. Like they tried to trade him for Nico Rantanen.
Yeah, and he kiboshed it.
And if that trade happens,
and I think that was a little bit of.
Oh, that was the final straw.
I'm going to stay here to the end of the year and then leave because I don't like you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to.
I don't know that. I'm just the way. If I'm getting traded to Carolina at the playoff time, I'm like, I'll go to Carolina, go into the playoffs, and then go to free agency. I have a chance to win a cup, and then I can go to free agency as opposed to staying here in Toronto. I think the fact that he kiboshed that and stayed in Toronto was him sticking it to the Leafs organization.
Oh, absolutely. That was the final.
You're going to lose me, and you're going to lose me for nothing.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to have to take a quick break here, but when we come back.
That's the one reason I wanted Toronto to win the cup this year, because I wanted the year after all that went down for him to go through the streets of Toronto with the cup.
Can you imagine a Vegas-Toronto Cup final? Whew. Too bad that'll never happen. We'll be right back with more Jets at Noon right after this.
Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
Make sure you give the Jets at Noon hockey hotline a call at 204-780-6800. Brought to you by Boston Pizza. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main, side, and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. And Jim, we got our winning MVP text today from Paolo.
Hello!
Paolo says, minimum this year is 1 series win. Anything less equals rebuild. Do you agree or disagree with that sentiment?
I don't know if it equals rebuild, but I think then you have to, again, the pressure on this season. I can't quantify it right now because if they miss the playoffs like they did last year or, get 30 less points than they did 2 seasons ago, that's a different thing than if you miss the playoffs by 3 points. That's a different thing than if you make the playoffs by 3 points. And it's a different thing than if you finish second in your division. I think they're a wild card team at best. That's just me right now. And depending on what happens with Hellebuyck and both ways, if he's back, that's a bonus. And if he's not back, what does that look like? That'll be better answered then. But I think they're a wild card team at best. I think the acquisitions they made aren't significant ones, but they're improvements. And that tells me that they feel with Bjork at second line center. And it was interesting with Ross yesterday because he hammered home. He goes, defensively, he's ready to go. Second line center, all that stuff. And offensively, and he's been playing with men. So I'm saying they have to get back to their previous 2 years. They won back-to-back Jennings trophies. Their defense was their MO, their identity, and it led to offense off of that. If they can do that, then I think they're a wild card team. I think they make the playoffs.
And it's
but if they can't find that defensive game, because again, I've said this, sound like a broken record. They're not going to outscore the Dallases, the Colorados in the division. I think Nashville's better. Utah's on
Minnesota
on par, tough. Minnesota. So what you have to do is play defensively. You need a Connor Hellebuyck and a defensive system that wins you 2-1, 3-2 games. I just feel that, and I think they can do it because this is a core, and if they can. I don't think they can do it to the tune of a second in the division or President's Trophy. That would surprise me, but I think they can do it to make the playoffs. But if they don't, then it's a different question. But I will say this, there's no diminishing asset on Hellebuyck and Scheifele and everybody else if they don't make the playoffs next year. I think they'll just be just as sought after. And I'll go to a 37-year-old Nazem Kadri who just got a first-round pick and a prospect or something.
Especially Mark Scheifele. Like, you see how many teams want a center right now, and that is absolute. For a legit number one center as well, there's going to be a lot of teams.
I think, honestly, if they don't make the playoffs and they decided to move on from an asset like Scheifele, you would get overpays for him.
I think one of the more underrated talking points that I don't think we mention enough is just how much Adam Lowry will bounce back. If he's able to come back to that level that he was playing at during the President's Trophy season, it just takes off so much pressure from Viggo Bjork as well.
Niederreiter with the knee injury and then the Olympic. He played well at the Olympics, right? And so I'm not saying Niederreiter is going to come back and get 45 points, but if he can come back and get 30, and Lowry will be better, that's no doubt. Lowry's on the ice right now at the rink. He's on the ice with Mark Scheifele, Neil Pionk, and Tyrell Bauer, who will be joining us tomorrow.
Yes, he will be.
But to me, that shows me like they're getting ready. They know, like they're embarrassed themselves, right? I'm not saying I know it's going to work. I'm just saying I think they can make the playoffs next year with this roster.
That gets me a little fired up.
But if they don't, then they go, but that's what's the beauty of this upcoming season. We've talked about the pressure, the organization, the team, the assets. I mean, it's going to be a great season to cover.
Yep.
The weight of every win and every single loss this year is going to be huge.
Just wait for
the Morrissey contract. Is Hellebuyck going to be here? There's so many storylines to follow. I'm really excited about it. Tyrell Bauer will join us tomorrow, and we have a very big announcement tomorrow as well on Jets at noon. So hopefully you'll join us for that. It's been a great summer so far. Summer's not over, but we got a big announcement on Jets at noon tomorrow, so join us for that.
Yep, absolutely. We'll be back tomorrow. Jim will take you all the way to 2 o'clock.
You did good today, kid. You did real good.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
We still got the farm.
We'll be back same time tomorrow. Thank you all for listening.
Because I'm alive.
And we'll be right back. Or we won't be right back, but we'll be back with more Jets at noon tomorrow.